who want power and control. Sometimes I just fantasize. I say, what would it be like if people could just leave other people alone? But they can't do it. They have to exercise power over other people. And Trump represents a country that is of, by, and for the people. The administrative state represents a country that is of, by, and for the government. And people understand that. Also, we're in a situation now where if we allow the leftists to achieve their goal of utilizing the Department of Justice to obliterate their most fierce opponent, we will have lost democracy in our country. We'll no longer be a free country.
I think you see what I see. That Make America Great Again conservatives aren't going to let that happen. The passion and resolve for saving this country, certainly President Trump is leading that movement, and I believe it's a movement. But President Trump isn't anything without all the people behind him, people watching this program that are so committed to standing with him to save this country. And we don't get anywhere without all of us together, do we, Dr. Carson?
Not at all. And the people who put our system together, they were amazing people, our founders were. You have people trying to denigrate them and saying they were horrible people because of slavery. What a bunch of garbage. But
Dr. Carson,
yeah.
I was going to ask you, I was watching Fox News earlier. Fox News has moved, I'm going to say center right, maybe, and they're certainly becoming more and more establishment. I watched Neil Cavuto go crazy over Kim Reynolds when Kim Reynolds, the governor of Iowa, who endorsed Ron DeSantis, said she would support President Trump if he is ultimately the nominee. Neil Cavuto went crazy. Then I watched him today, Dr. Carson. I got very angry with this. You compared or made an analogy of King David and President Trump. And he tried to catch you and play got you. And are you saying President Trump is King David, which clearly we're not saying. You were just making an analogy of the story and what President Trump is going through. What do you make of what Fox News is doing? And what did you make of that moment with Neil Cavuto today?
Well, I realize that people like to make news. So I'm very cautious of that. And that's why I say, I don't know about King, but he has certainly great policies that really help the people. The news media, for some strange reason, has lost sight of why they were the only business that's protected by the Constitution. It's because they're supposed to disseminate balanced, fair information to the people, because the country is supposed to be run on the will of the people. But how can they know what their will is when the media puts their thumb on the scale and distorts everything? And I think that has a lot to do with the confusion that's going on in our country right now. We, the American people, are not each other's enemies, but we're allowing ourselves to be divided and have wedges driven into us based on race, age, income, gender, religion, political affiliation, everything, destroying us. And we're creating our own problems. We don't have a lot of problems except the self-inflicted ones.
Yeah, it's amazing. This parallel economy has started to take shape. You've got conservative media that has taken rise because of a very devious left-wing media that is totally biased against anybody that loves freedom and liberty. Dr. Carson, we've got Donald Trump Jr. standing by, so I'm going to go out to him. But thank you so much for coming on the program, and thank you so much for everything you've done for this great nation of ours, Dr. Carson. We appreciate you coming on tonight. With that, I want to go out to President Trump's son. Don Jr. is with us. Don, it's great to have you on the program.
Good to be with you, Grant. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So you heard Dr. Carson talking a little bit about the mainstream media. You would think from 2016 on through your father's presidency, the backlash against the mainstream media, that they would learn a lesson. And to me, it looks like they've only gotten worse.
I think they've probably actually gotten significantly worse. I think that's perhaps one of the great accomplishments of my father, although he probably doesn't get enough credit for it, was actually exposing just how biased, just how ridiculous, just how many lies our mainstream media has propagated over the last probably significantly longer than Trump's time in office, but over the last few years, certainly. I mean, Russia was the gospel for 5 years, but it's a lie. But they cover up for Joe Biden. They'll cover up for Hunter Biden, the failures of today's Democrat Party. They continue to do it. They are literally paid opposition working entirely for the Democrat Party. Same with big tech. And what's nice about the extreme nature of it, while we've had to deal with it, it's woken up so many people as to what's really going on in our country. And I think we needed that to actually start taking action against it.
So here you have the media waging war against really anybody that loves freedom, but certainly your father. You've got the Democrats coming after your father. You've got a rogue justice system coming after your father. On a personal level, I've gotten to know your father a little bit, and he always is so upbeat, so much energy, so much smiles.
Yeah.
How do you and your dad keep it up when you face literally the wrath of the worst these people have to offer on a daily basis?
You know, honestly, at this point, I think we've just gotten accustomed to it. We get it. We understand what we're fighting for. I can assure you, our lives were a lot easier when we were just real estate developers from New York City, but we actually believe in these things. For me, as a father of 5 young kids, I want to leave them a country that we know and recognize. And so we've gotten accustomed to it. We're just fighters by nature, for better or worse. Maybe we're just masochists, but we will be out there. We will always fight. We will never stop. We will never give up. I'm watching my father, with what they're trying to do to him. I mean, he continues to be upbeat. I know the stuff I had to deal with, Hunter Biden gets to skate. He doesn't have to do this. I do 50 hours of congressional testimony for treason, a crime punishable by death, based on the lies of the Hillary campaign and the Democrat Party with the Russia nonsense. And, it's just different. It's different if you're a conservative, and we need a fighting class. We can't just be the rhinos who roll over. And, they're allowed to be conservative 70% of the time, as long as they give up, roll over, capitulate, bend the knee every time to the Democrats when it actually matters. So we need a class of actual fighters in D.C. representing us. And, unfortunately, in the Republican Party, there's not a lot of that.
No, there sure isn't. This is a tough question for me to ask you, because I wouldn't want to ask this of any son of a father. One of the things that I've been warning about on my show on a regular basis is my biggest fear right now is they can't beat your dad in the court. They can't beat your dad at the ballot box. They can't beat your dad on the airwaves. Yeah. What do? I worry about them trying to take him out. I worry about an assassination attempt. I worry about them trying to kill the man. It's their last effort. And I hate to even ask you about that, Don, but is that something you're concerned about?
I mean, listen, honestly, if you look at their actions, if you look at what they're willing to do across the world, if you're looking what they're willing to do at the border, and what the human trafficking and sex trafficking crisis that they're perpetuating with their insane borders, when you look at sending all these young men in the Ukraine to go die as cannon fodder so that, a couple of guys at Raytheon and Boeing can get rich in the military industrial complex because, we haven't been in a war in like a year, it never ends. So nothing actually ceases to amaze me with the level of depravity that Washington and especially the Democrats will do. I mean, look at Joe Biden and his family. I mean, it's ridiculous. Look at Hunter, and he's totally protected despite being one of the biggest degenerates out there, selling out our country, making millions. I'm sure the Chinese pay a lot of crackheads millions and millions of dollars, elsewhere, or maybe it's just Joe Biden's kid because they could buy him and buy the influence that gets him, which was probably one of China's finest investments. That's what we're up against. So, nothing surprises me anymore, but I think we just have to continue to fight. We have to call it out. We have to make sure that their depravity and their insanity is visible to the American people. That's why everyone in Iowa needs to go caucus. We need to end this primary now because the rhinos want to drag it out forever so that we don't have the funds, so that we don't have the ability to take on the lunacy that is today's radical Democrat Party and, the rhinos who are willing to capitulate to them most of the time.
Well, again, I feel horrible even to have to ask you about it, but it is something that I'm very, very concerned with. And then I turn to the safety and security of the American people. We see the open border. We know terrorists are coming in. We now see the Houthis just attacked an American ship today in the Red Sea. And we're literally on the verge of World War III. Lord knows what one of these terrorists coming across the border could do to American citizens. What do you say to all of that?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure there's not dozens of sleeper cells, maybe hundreds of sleeper cells all over the country after we letting in millions of people across a wide open border. I'm sure that would never happen. We just, by coincidence, are finding all sorts of Middle Eastern passports and Chinese passports left at the border. I mean, that's clearly happening because that's the nature of predation. Okay, predators take advantage of the weak, and they see our president, they see our leadership, they see the ridiculous nature of the priorities of today's Democrat Party, and they realize that the world is ripe for the picking because no one is watching. America has lost its power. This stuff didn't happen under Trump. He created peace. He got peace deals done. Everyone wasn't invading their neighbor because they understood strength and resolve. And right now, you look at our president, you see a feeble, frail, weak, bordering on imbecile, and you realize, hey, we can take advantage of this. That's what they're doing. This is not a new story. This is a story as old as time, but it's happening, and it doesn't take much for you to realize why Iran is doing this, why the Houthis are willing to do this, why China is willing to provoke Taiwan, while Russia is willing to invade their neighbor. That stuff didn't happen under Trump, and there's a reason for it.
Yep, that sure is true. I know you're a busy guy. I'm going to let you go. One last thing for you. What's your final message to Iowa voters there? I want to totally crush. I know any victory is a victory, but I want to totally crush the competition here. Your message to Iowa.
Yeah. Listen, get out, go to your caucus location right now, ia.donaldjtrump.com. If you don't know already, you can double check. Get there before 7 o'clock. Caucus. Let's end this primary now so that we have the funds to take on the radical Democrat parties, their big tech and billionaire overlords, so that we can get America back on track, because what's happening right now is an embarrassment and it's a disaster. We can fix it. We just need the chance to do it. And it's not going to happen letting the rhinos drag out a primary for 6 months.
All right, Donald Trump Jr., thank you for standing in the gap through all of this and the rest of your family. And good luck to your father tonight. We're rooting for him.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Grant.
Absolutely. Good seeing you. Look, folks, again, it comes down to all of you, all of us together. It is a movement. And the only way we take this country back is all of us together. Stand firm. All right, coming up after the break, we will continue our coverage of the Iowa caucuses as we move closer and closer to 7 o'clock Eastern time when all of this stuff kicks off. We're back in a flash. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Grant Stinchfield. We have complete coverage of the Iowa caucuses with teams spread out throughout the state and teams in Washington, D.C. and beyond. One of the biggest issues that we are talking about, of course, is the border. Iowa has become a border state, just like every state in the nation. This is Congressman Mike Garcia basically explaining why every state is a border state now.
You saw that number, 302,000 encounters. So these are people that we actually caught in the month of December. That's 10,000 people a day. And 85% of the people right now who are coming to our southern border are actually getting through the southern border. 70% of those people are single males between the age of 18 and 45. And they're all about basically getting released across all 50 states right now.
Those are military-aged males. Many of them special interest aliens, which means they come from terror-infected countries. What does all this mean? Is it an issue in Iowa? I believe it should be, and I believe it most likely is. We know people are dying of fentanyl overdoses in Iowa. That's coming from the southern border. I want to get out now to Ankeny, Iowa, where Tara Dahl and David Zier are standing by. To the both of you, welcome to the program. Tara, start with you. Is the border an issue in Iowa? A long way from the border, but not so much anymore, Tara.
Yeah, absolutely, Grant. The polling shows that Iowan Republicans, their number one issue is the economy, but their number two issue is the border. It's immigration. And when we're out here talking to people, that is one of the number one, two things that they are most concerned about. In particular, in Iowa, it is the crossroads for human trafficking because it's the crossroads of Interstate 30 and Interstate 80. And so that is where a lot of the human trafficking goes on. And also between 2020 and 2022 in Iowa alone, the fentanyl seizures have gone up 500%. 500%, and drug-related deaths have gone up 35%. So even though they're not on the border, they are definitely being impacted by Biden's open border policies. And Kim Reynolds, the governor here, that she sent down law enforcement, and she also sent down the Iowa National Guard to help Governor Abbott's Operation Lone Star to secure the border. So they have been sending down their law enforcement, their troops, to be able to help on securing the border.
David, you've been in this game a long time. It's amazing where we've come in just, basically 3 years from Joe Biden taking over. And now we're talking about border crisis as the number two issue in Iowa.
On the ground, it's the number one issue of people that I've approached. This is my 9th trip to Iowa for Real America's Voice News. Yesterday, I interviewed 8 college students from around the country, and they all said the border is number one. So, it's pervasive in society, and people don't like the inequity of it.
Well, let me play a clip from President Trump talking about the border, and then, Tara, I'll get your reaction. This is cut B2 for guys in the control room. This is President Trump talking about the border. I believe this was over the weekend.
Well, we can't have 15, 16, 18 million people. I mean, they're taking over our schools. They're taking over our hospitals. You go to a hospital and you can't, and you want to take care of people. They're people, whether they're American people, but it's not sustainable. It's no good. It's not sustainable. Our people are suffering greatly.
Tara, my question for you is, in Iowa, are they getting the same flood of illegals that many other states are getting? I mean, we've become almost used to it here in Texas, where I'm broadcasting from. Is Iowa getting the number of illegals there too?
Yeah, it's impacting every single state. No matter where you are in the country, you have illegal immigrants, and they're impacting our schools. Look at what happened in New York City. And it's not only New York where the American students are being kicked out and they're being replaced by illegals. It's happening in our hospitals, and every single tax-paying American pays $1,100 per year for illegal immigration. So it doesn't matter where you live, you are paying that cost for the illegal activity. And it's absolutely shocking that our Congress has not done something where our taxpayer money is actually going to illegal activity in the United States. And they're not doing anything to stop that.
Nothing. And it really is a shame they're not doing anything. David, let me switch topics a little bit to turnout. The mainstream media has been talking about cold weather. I've got to believe Iowans are used to cold weather. Trump supporters, I think, would crawl over ice or hot coals to get to the polls in order to vote for him. We're about 35 minutes away. You're at a caucus station. What is turnout looking? Can you compare it to anything before? What are you seeing?
Well, it was a packed house before when Don Jr. spoke, and he had everyone's attention, but then it cleared out. Now it's going again, and it's filling up here. And I interviewed 3 precinct captains, including Ankeny precinct captain Ron Krull. Expecting a heavy turnout. The roads are clear in Iowa for the most part, even though it's cold and windy. There's not a lot of snow blocking areas to get for access. So, so that's what I have more updates for you if you need it.
Yes. All right. Thank you, guys. Tara, David, great to see you. I know you guys will be standing by, and we certainly do appreciate that. Someone else who is standing by is Kimberly Guilfoyle. She's with our Michelle Baucus in Iowa at Trump headquarters in Des Moines. Welcome to the both of you.
Grant, yeah, you might recognize a familiar face with me. And you know what? We're both Florida girls. So, Kimberly, I first have to ask you, how have you been braving the weather?
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. I tried to protect myself and become, ready for the elements. I got the boots on, I got the turtleneck, but I've got my favorite thing, which is my 45-47.
I love it.
Team Trump jacket. So people love it. But, I have to tell you, I wanted to make sure and see how everything was going by actually being on the ground, talking to Iowans and feeling kind of the enthusiasm and their measure of, interest and passion to get out there. And we had a packed event in Ankeny. So that was fantastic. And they were all committed to leave. They said, hey, we're here. We're going for you guys. And then we're going to head out because we got to go vote. So I'm excited about it. And the phone banking is going fantastic as well.
Oh, that's
so we
great
went
to
in
hear.
there with all the volunteers, and then I'm heading out to another caucus site. So is Don Jr. So we're going to be all over the place and try to see as many people as we can to just guarantee and ensure these results. We're excited about this, and then going straight into New Hampshire. So off of a big win here in Iowa. So that's what I feel like. Trump train. It's been really good, and President Trump has the most enthusiastic supporters. They stand in line for hours.
He said the walk on glass. Yeah, ice in this case.
It's ice in this case, and they show up for him. They'll wait in rain and thunder and lightning for 4 hours to just hear him speak at a rally. I think they're going to show up tonight, and his approval rating is like 90%. Those are serious numbers. The rest of those candidates that are trying to pretend they have a chance to run against him are at like 30%. So the people who are 90% approval for Trump,
yes,
they're baked in. They love him. They want to make sure that he gets back in the White House, and a decisive victory in Iowa is going to be part of that big win.
You've been all over the state. You still have a busy night ahead of you nonetheless.
Yeah.
You've been talking with voters. What are the biggest issues that they're talking about with you?
Yeah, great question. So definitely people concerned about the economy, about jobs, and also, how expensive things have become, whether it's gas or it's food or just taking your family, out to eat. And then a lot of the mothers and the parents are very concerned about the indoctrination and schools trying to take over the role of the parent. They don't like the whole push about, change your gender, all of the transgender issues. So all of that's come up. But also the border and national security and making sure that we maintain our borders and we protect our citizens and we actually have the sovereignty brought back versus just open porous borders with cartels, drugs, child and sex trafficking. That's got to stop. And President Trump is going to make sure. He did it before. He had our border and our wall up, and now we've got to finish the work that he started.
And speaking of records, I mean, we have a lot of first-time caucus goers for President Trump. I think a big part of that is the fact that the Biden administration is just such a disaster at this point.
Yeah, people are really just very excited to come out for President Trump. And another big one is a lot of people who had supported Biden in the past. We're seeing the numbers shift. They're supporting Trump this time around. That's a big problem for the Democrats and for Joe Biden. And, also we're seeing a shift in more college-educated young people voting and supporting President Trump. And a big reason is because they don't like the government overreach, the abuse, the lawfare, what they're doing to him. I said enough is enough. And so that's great. But we have a big tent, so we welcome it all.
Yeah, that's a huge win, especially with the younger conservatives, because we need to get them, especially moving forward. I have to ask you, what are your predictions for tonight? I mean, you already said President Trump is going to win. So what are your other predictions?
Look at, they're even saying that at CNN. They're even saying they think he's going to win.
That's when you know.
That's when when you know, because they can't even not say it with a straight face. They're like, oh, he's going to win. But, I think he's going to do very well tonight just because his supporters are so enthused by him.
What about DeSantis?
Well, I mean, I don't know who DeSantis even has. Like, his bus looks like it's broken down on the side of the road. It's not going well. It's not going well.
A great metaphor for what's happening.
And look at all the money that he spent here. It's unbelievable. So you would think there would be some better results for him, but no, because everybody is so excited about President Trump and the party. So I'm thrilled with it. I think we're going to have a great night, and I'll take a win, whatever it is. By any percentage point, it's fine, because the fact of the matter is we just want this victory in Iowa and move forward to New Hampshire.
So I have to ask you, who do you think is going to do better, Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis?
I really don't know. I mean, neither one of them are impressive at this point with what they've been able to, hobble together. And I just don't think they're going to be able to get their supporters out there in a meaningful way that is going to show any kind of significance or momentum going forward. The only thing you have with Ron DeSantis is the numbers are going down.
Continuing.
That's the only thing. So, I know they've spent a lot of money. They have a lot of big donors. And I know there's people that are, never Trumpers or et cetera, that will try and vote for, Nikki Haley. There's some reference about like crossover, voting. Democrats are able to vote here. So they don't want to face President Trump on election day. So they'll try and sabotage, but it won't matter because we'll still have enough to run up the score.
And Kimberly, I have to ask you one more question. You don't mess with the MAGA community. And Vivek Ramaswamy seemed like he was a loyal fan of President Trump. I never really saw him attack him during debates, but over these past couple days, things have definitely changed. How do you think that's going to hurt him here in Iowa, as well as just moving forward in general?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He was always quite nice about President Trump, but President Trump has made some comments about him because he doesn't want people, don't waste your vote and vote for Vivek, vote for President Trump. And I think he wants that message really clear. There's only one Trump. There is no other substitute. Anything else is just like, a cheap imitation.
Kimberly, thank you so much for being with us. You got the jacket on. You're right. She is ready to brave the cold. What, -10 now? Is that what it is out?
I know. And it's going down to what, like 20 or something? I don't know.
You know what? After -2, maybe? I can't even keep track.
Yeah, you should stay right here where it's nice and warm with these studio lights. I got to go back out there. Oh my God.
Well, I'm praying for you. Yes. I know it's going to be a good, successful night. Of course, it's going to be really exciting.
Everybody stay safe out there. Yes. Make sure you go and vote. Make it count.
Yes. Thank you so much. All right, Grant, back to you.
Well, Michelle, Kimberly, thank you both for that. Boy, I was going to complain about 16 degrees in Dallas, Texas, where I'm broadcasting from, but minus what? I can't even say it. It's so cold there. Interesting stuff. And the Democrats coming out to vote for Nikki Haley. I thought the Democrats said President Trump was the guy they wanted to run against. So he's the easiest one to beat. Well, that doesn't make any sense. If they're going to vote for Nikki Haley, if President Trump's the easiest, why would they do that? Because they know he's the toughest one to beat. That's why. All right, folks, we are back. I want to talk a little national security. We had an attack on a U.S. Cargo ship today by the Houthis. This is all Biden's fault, by the way. We're going to talk about that, and we continue our coverage of the Iowa caucuses here as we roll through the evening. Stick with us. And good evening, everyone. Welcome back to our coverage of the Iowa caucuses. I am saddened to tell you that I believe we're on the verge of World War III. What happened today in the Gulf of Aden is nothing short of stunning. We had a U.S. cargo ship that was attacked by Houthis, set on fire, absolute disaster. Hours earlier before that, apparently they fired a missile at a U.S. destroyer. Now, firing on the United States Navy would have never been thought about. Really, not just under President Trump, but almost under any previous president. All that is out the window now. This is President Trump talking about the threat we face with Joe Biden at the helm.
He is a mental catastrophe that is leading our country to hell. We'll end up in World War III because of this man, and for no reason whatsoever. Thank you.
You know what I love? And nobody puts it better than him, because that's the fact, the absolute truth. He is a mental catastrophe, and we are headed to war because of him. Well, joining me now, former Deputy Director of National Intelligence under President Trump. He's also the author of the book, Government Gangsters, out now. Kash Patel is with us. Kash, welcome back.
Hey, great to be with you.
You know, Kash, normally foreign policy isn't the biggest topic to talk about during the Iowa caucuses or any other presidential primary in these states. But we better be talking about it, because this threat of World War III is real, isn't it?
Look, you're absolutely right. Mostly it's the kitchen table economic issues. But when you have the globe on the verge of catastrophe in World War III, that is the only thing we should be talking about. And I think President Trump has done brilliantly laying out his agenda for global diplomacy and national security. Look, let's remind the audience of the hard truths of the Biden administration. He cut Iran a $6 billion check. Joe Biden walked into office and delisted the Houthis as a terrorist organization. That organization in Iran, flush with Joe Biden's money, are the ones that have struck 135 U.S. military installations in the last 90 days alone. And we are on the precipice of World War III. And let's not forget the most treacherous conduct from Austin and Biden to date. Their abject failure of the National Command Authority when each other go into hiding, lie to the world. And what's the result? 2 U.S. Navy special operators are killed during an action event in the Red Sea that should never have been authorized and would never have occurred under President Trump. We have lost United States service members during wartime, and the mainstream media doesn't even care.
No, it's horrible. My heart goes out to the families of those service members lost, trying to get on board a ship in rough seas and washed overboard, and it's all but ignored. You mentioned Secretary of Defense Austin. He goes into the hospital, doesn't tell the White House. He's there for 4 days. You know what I want to know, Kash Patel? I want to know if Obama knew. Did Obama know that he was in the hospital when he went in the first day and Joe Biden didn't? That would tell you a lot, wouldn't it?
I'm sure a lot of people knew. Look, we now know the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff knew. The #1 uniformed military officer in America knew and didn't tell the White House. Other senior staffers knew. I used to be the chief of staff at DOD. If they knew, that means about 40 other people knew and lied to the White House. The problem I have with that is not that Lloyd Austin shouldn't get medical treatment. He should get the best. But when he goes out on leave, there's a process in place to make sure our national security isn't gapped. Here's a terrible situation getting even worse. Our #1 defense official has been sidelined for 3 weeks. And he was just released from the hospital today, and he's not going back to work. He's going back home, where he says he's going to receive intelligence from the bedside and do the job to the best of his abilities. That's not how the United States Department of Defense works. That's not how it worked under President Donald J. Trump. There were no gaps, and this type of leadership is just another example of Joe Biden failing America on the world stage.
All right, so all of this is connected to what's going on in Iowa, because if President Trump doesn't win all of these primary battles that we're going to have play out over the next few months, then we're in big trouble. And so I'm confident he is going to win. But let me give you an example of why we're in such trouble. This is John Kirby downplaying everything you just talked about, Kash. This is cut E5 for the guys behind the glass.
And I think it's important for people to remember that the cabinet officials don't have to sit and talk every single day to make every decision. A lot of the work that gets done in national security is done at the staff level.
Right. But there is a chain of command here.
Of course.
And the commander in chief didn't know that his defense secretary was this ill.
And that's a problem. And the president has spoken to that. That is not the way it's supposed to be. It's certainly something we need to get more answers to. And the Pentagon's investigating this, and we'll see what comes out of that.
I'm actually shocked that Margaret, whatever her name is, even pushed back on it, Cash. But your response to John Kirby?
John Kirby is the biggest con job, huckster, spinster, disinformation campaigner that the White House has ever seen in United States history. And that only does a disservice to the American people. The advantage that we have right now with President Trump leading out and going to Iowa tonight for the first of the nation caucuses is the world is watching these lies being told by the Biden White House. The world is watching the failure of the Biden administration to take on the largest state sponsor of terror, Iran. The world is watching Donald Trump's policies that work to end 3 forever wars, to bring home American hostages, to seal the border, and they are seeing it's all interrelated. So while they are spewing lies, Donald Trump is leading the charge in Iowa and everywhere else to educate the world on the importance of national security. And being a national security guy for 16 years and going, I don't know of a better commander-in-chief in the United States history, maybe save George Washington, than Donald J. Trump. And Americans are seeing that, and I think they're going to vote that way in Iowa. And for the first time ever, I think it's going to be more important than even the economy during this election cycle.
Yeah. All right, you mentioned earlier about Iran pulling the strings of the Houthis. I believe China is pulling the strings of Iran. So it all ends up going back to China. Joe Biden can't deal with them because he's compromised by them and on the take by them. A double whammy with Joe Biden. What needs to happen with China right now?
Brandon, you raise a fantastic point that no one's talking about. Everyone's asleep on the CCP because the mainstream media can't cover two things at once. Now that Joe Biden has delisted terrorist organizations and opened up world banking to Iran, you know who they're getting their weapon system delivery vehicles from? The CCP, flush with the $6 billion from Joe Biden. You know what? The one thing that Donald Trump always protected against was a nuclear Iran. That was one of his number one mission sets. I know that from the positions I serve. Now we know under Joe Biden, Iran has gotten to weapons grade nuclear weaponry. That is a cataclysmic disaster. And now they're going to go to Russia and China and buy the weapon systems they need to deliver those vehicles against us, the United States of America. So what has to happen is what Donald Trump did to China. Monumentally increased tariffs, shut down trade with every enemy that we have on God's green earth, threaten our allies that you have to either pick democracy or communism and go with whatever protects American interests first. And that's what Donald Trump did. He put it out on there on the world stage for America to see that China was the biggest threat to the United States of America, but he was able to get them to kneel.
All right. I know you know the organization New Federal State of China. They came on my program. Steve Bannon was one of the founders of this group with Miles Guo, a Chinese dissident. They said they're CCP whistleblowers. And let me place this caveat. Every time they've told me something on my show, days later, what they say, it ends up happening. They say they're CCP whistleblowers inside the Chinese Communist Party. Said China is supplying Iran with weapons-grade uranium, that Iran doesn't even need to produce it. They're getting it from China. You think that's a possibility?
It's an absolute reality. Look, the CCP is flush with money, and when they don't have enough, they just print more and devalue their currency because they don't abide by any international monetary standard, let alone the law. Neither does Iran, neither does Russia. And now they're teaming up with former allies of ours in the Middle East to open up economic and global oil trade to include the Saudis and Venezuelans and other countries. So now they have access to a banking system. And if they can't get it from the CCP, they'll find someone else to get it. But you're absolutely right. Look, the one thing these countries have in common that are unifying them is they want to take out America, and they see Joe Biden at the helm, and they see every opportunity every day to do so. You just led with the fact that a United States cargo vessel was attacked by a missile in the Red Sea.
Yeah.
And no one's talking about it? What if that happened during the Trump administration? It would be the only piece of news that matters. And I hope that the Iowans, and I believe they will, focus on Donald Trump's successes and the desire to have world peace again and not just have a strategy of hope.
All right. Last question for you. I want you to put your strategist hat on. And I often use my sister as an example. She's interested in politics. She's a great conservative. She knows what's right and wrong. But she says, brother, I watch your show sometimes. And I get so nervous and so scared of everything going on in the world, I turn it off. How do you run a campaign as President Trump? You want to tell the American people that all these things are happening under Joe Biden without scaring them out of the room. How do you run that campaign?
I think President Trump has done that brilliantly. He highlights the problem, but he brings you the solution to every problem he highlights. He's put that out in his Agenda 47 day after day after day for years. He's told you how he's going to secure the border. He's told you he's going to take out the terrorists like the Houthis and Hezbollah in Iran. He's told you he's going to get the world leaders on board with ending the war in the Ukraine and Israel. He's told you he's going to pick up the phone and call Putin and Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping and restore the policies that kept these enemies of ours in check. They may not like America, but they respect Donald Trump. And when he gets on the world stage again, America should be imbued by the fact that they will take his calls. They will take our meetings, because if they don't, Donald Trump would act a series of diplomatic and engagements and sanctions that will cripple their economy. They know that's coming. And those solutions, along with sealing the border, are what's going to save this country and stop the forever wars. And most importantly, stop sending our men and women in uniform to reckless death by a politicized and weaponized system of justice at the White House.
Yeah, all great advice. You remind me of a great phrase that I used to say all the time: solutions first. And it literally is that simple. You start giving people solutions, they start feeling better about the future. That's what President Trump is doing. And Kash Patel, you doing on a daily basis as well. We appreciate you coming on the show today, buddy.
Thanks so much. Have a great night.
Absolutely. All right, don't forget his book, Government Gangsters. You can get it everywhere books are sold. We appreciate him coming on the program. All right, we have a big night ahead of us. I love nights like this, and I'm so happy you can join me for it as we continue our coverage of the Iowa caucuses, the road to victory for President Trump, but even more importantly than that, the road to restore America starts tonight, folks. This is it. You want to talk about a campaign bus? It starts in Iowa tonight, and we got to take this thing straight to the White House. That's what's going to happen. How about that for hope for you? All right, we'll continue our coverage when we come back. Welcome back, everyone, to our special coverage of the Iowa caucuses. One of the topics that they are talking about on the ground in Iowa and across the nation, of course, is immigration. It is a crisis on the southern border, to say the least. All of our problems really stem from the border. Without a secure border, you don't solve anything in America. Biden doesn't understand this. He was asked over the weekend whether or not what we're seeing on the border is a crisis. Wait till you hear his response. Listen to this.
Mr. President, would you call the situation on the southern border a crisis? No, but I wish they would react. I've been pushing them, my Republican colleagues, since I got in office. I think we have to make a major changes in the border. I've been pushing them. I'm prepared to make significant alterations in the border. Negotiations going on for the last 5 weeks. I'm hoping we get there.
Folks, listen to me. He has the audacity to, one, say it's not a crisis, and two, to blame Republicans. What is it that you want to do that Republicans don't agree with? You're going to say you're going to remain in Mexico? You're going to say you're going to catch and deport? Or are you going to say no more asylum claims? None of those things. You're going to build a wall? No. Republicans aren't responsible for this. Joe Biden and his gang of thieves are responsible for this. I want to break all of this down. We are lucky. Kash Patel is going to hang over with me a little bit. So the author of Government Gangsters is still with us. And I want to bring in as well our team from American Sunrise, hosts David Brody and Dr. Gina Loudon. Dr. Gina, let me start with you. It's not a crisis, and he blames Republicans. I don't think Iowans from either side of the aisle are going to agree with that.
Well, that's convenient after he spent the remarkable amount of his so-called presidency, I call it a residency, in the Oval Office, doing absolutely nothing about it, to then turn around in the 11th hour and try to make a campaign play to blame it on Republicans. It's actually laughable. There's not even a Democrat out there, Grant, who believes this rhetoric.
No. Kash Patel, what do you make of Joe Biden's statement there? Is he just clueless? Is he lying? Does he really think this is a campaign trick to work with voters to blame Republicans? What do you make of this?
Just fast forward to the first 3 years of administration. They said there was no invasion at the border. There was no problem. The border was sealed. Illegal immigrants weren't coming over and committing crimes. And how about, for example, in my hometown here of Las Vegas, Nevada, we had an illegal immigrant kill 2 people just the other week. That's happening in communities across this country, tragically. And we haven't even talked about CCP fentanyl that's pouring in and killing our children. That impact is happening everywhere, from Iowa, from coast to coast. And Joe Biden has shied away from it and lied about it, of course, with the help of the mainstream media. And Americans are now calling him on his lies, and he has zero solution. So his idea is to shift blame and say, oh, my Republican friends in Congress need to fix it. No, you, the commander in chief, need to fix it.
Yeah. Well, President Trump knows that this is a big issue, not just for America, but for voters, for our safety and security. And he's pushing it hard, as he should, just as he did in 2016 and 2020. This is him over the weekend. And then, David Brody, I'm going to get your response to President Trump's comments on the border crisis.
As you know, the southern border is in full meltdown. We are under invasion by many, many countries. December was the worst border month in American history by far. Over 300,000 illegal aliens were apprehended infiltrating across our border in a single month. Think of that. And sadly, that's a vast undercount of what the true scale of the catastrophe is.
You know, they have counted gotaways, and then there are the gotaways that they don't even know about, which could be into the multi-millions. David, quick comment on that, and then maybe give me a quick update on what you want to see, at least, from some of the counties in Iowa tonight.
You bet. First of all, on the immigration issue, here's the problem for Biden. The American public is onto him. And I'm not talking about MAGA. We know MAGA has been onto him from the get-go. I'm talking about independents. Look, Mayorkas, Alejandro Mayorkas, as I like to call him, with the accent and everything, he goes to Congress, and 19 times he has said the border is secure. Give me a, quote, freaking break. They literally think Americans are stupid. And the problem is, is here for the Biden regime is that independents are going to turn against them in the general, because this isn't just about Republican and Democrat. This is about some of those swing voters, and this is where Trump can make big-time political hay, if you will. Now, as for Iowa and some of those counties we were talking about, I really do want to focus on Sioux County. Sioux County is the #2 hotbed of evangelicals in the state. They went big time for Ted Cruz in 2016. Donald Trump only won 11% of the folks in Sioux County. Let's see how he does tonight. My sense of it is he'll do way better than 11%. As a matter of fact, he could actually win the county. And if he's winning Sioux County, what that tells me is that he's in for a 30, 40-point romp across the state. And, you know, Grant, evangelicals went for Ted Cruz in 2016, 33-21. These are white, born-again evangelical Christians. That's what they're not called exit polls in Iowa. They're called entrance polls, actually. 33-21%. Cruz won evangelicals. This time around, the polling, at least going into tonight, shows Donald Trump with a commanding lead over with evangelicals, 51-22. We'll see how that plays out. And let me just quickly say, while we're on the topic of evangelicals, because they're crucial in Iowa, a lot of people might be wondering, well, wait a minute. What about the Mike Huckabee, the Rick Santorum, the Ted Cruz, you know, the culture warrior evangelical that typically wins Iowa? What's happening here? Well, the evangelical electorate has changed. I've covered it over 20 years. It used to be a culture warrior mindset. It's still that, but they've added the populist strain. They've added the anti-government strain. And so you have populist plus culture warrior, and that fits Donald Trump to a T. He blends both worlds.
Yeah, and Kash Patel, on what David said, President Trump has captured the evangelical world. No one expected him to do this, but he has the utmost respect from them now. What do you expect out of Iowa tonight, Kash?
I think Iowa's going to show you on religious background, on diversity, on economic backgrounds, farming, business, everything that America has to offer is in the state of Iowa. And Donald Trump has captured the minds of everyone out there that wants to see America succeed, because he has shown them that it's about putting just America first and not a category of Americans first, because every single category of Americans has been debilitated by the Joe Biden administration. We have been infiltrated by illegal immigrants. Crime is on the rise. Our border is not secure. And we are on the verge of sending more men and women to fight in forever wars. And Donald Trump is the only candidate that has actually shown the world that he can shut that down and secure our nation. So I think Iowans of all stripes are going to show the world what the United States of America is about and how much they have responded to Donald Trump's policy.
Gina, what do you expect from tonight in Iowa? Is there any one thing that you're looking at that you want to see tonight?
Well, it's really interesting. You know, since 2008, the victor of Iowa has not become the nominee. Since 1972, since 1972, only 3 of the victors of the Iowa caucuses have gone on to then become the nominee. So it really is very inconsequential unless it's Donald Trump. Because, Grant, if tonight Donald Trump is the victor and then he goes on to win the next competition, it's completely and utterly over. I think it's over tonight if Donald Trump wins by even the smallest of margins. I think he's going to win big. Don't misunderstand me at all. But caucuses are bizarre. I participated in them when I lived in Missouri. And they're not like, it's not like a secret ballot. It's not where people come and vote, right? Don't think of it like a primary, because it's not the same thing. It's more like a neighborhood meeting. There's arm twisting, there's deal making, there are, you know, you're not supposed to do this, but there's job offers. I've seen it happen. And so things can change, and they can change in odd ways in caucuses. So whatever happens tonight doesn't really matter, as I just laid out, because of the history of caucuses and how they go. But it does matter if Donald Trump wins, because it really just means that the rest of these folks are not competing at all.
Hey,
all right,
Grant,
David Brody. Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Well, just a quick heads up as we approach the 8 o'clock Eastern hour, which of course is 7 o'clock in Iowa, which is when the caucuses begin. Let's remember, and hopefully most folks here are watching RAV, but for those that have been sucked in and turned over to the ABC, NBC, CBS people, let me just be very clear. What you're going to see from the networks tonight is they're going to be live at some big caucus sites in Des Moines, Iowa, in the suburbs. That's a little bit more of a Nikki Haley territory, if you will. So you've got to be very careful in that first hour when the networks are going to start saying, oh, look at Nikki Haley. Here she comes. Settle down, everybody. Take a sedative. The point is that they're spinning it early, guys. They're spinning it early.
Yeah, that's what they're spinning. They're also spinning this idea that if he doesn't get over 50%, that it's somehow a huge loss for President Trump. Right. If he beats Nikki Haley by 30, even 20%, or any of them, that's a huge victory. And Cash, I'll end it with you because we go to New Hampshire next week. I mean, I can't believe New Hampshire is only, 8 days away now. He doesn't have as big a lead. He's up like 14, 15 points in New Hampshire, but by any standards, that's a blowout going into a party primary in New Hampshire. How important is New Hampshire after Iowa? You think we'll be down to just President Trump after that state?
Look, each and every state matters. But here's the thing in presidential politics. You just got to win. And the fact that the mainstream media is shifting the goalposts now and saying, oh, it's not going to be 40 points. And no, he's not up by 25 points in New Hampshire anymore, is their last gasp. They are now trying to deflate the balloon and say, oh, it's going to be some rhino establishment iconoclast that's going to come in and steal it. Donald Trump is polling first because Americans are receptive of Donald Trump's policies. And he's out by such a big margin because he's been able to effectually message that policy to everyday Americans. So whether it's Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, or right here back in Nevada in a few weeks, I think Donald Trump's going to put the pedal to the metal. And whatever the margin of victory is, the thing that's going to sell the most at the end of the day is Donald Trump will be number one in every single state.
Absolutely. Just win, Rock, win, to quote the old line from Rocky. And that's what's most important here. Kash Patel, we appreciate you coming on. The American Sunrise crew, host David Brody and Dr. Gina Loudon, both of you, thank you for coming on. And I know all of you are hanging around throughout the evening as we watch the results come in. David made mention that, look, Iowa caucus is just about to start now. What I'd like to do next is go out to a caucus site where we have a crew and see what the turnout is out there and what it looks like as the caucuses get underway in just about a minute from now. We'll be back and we'll do just that. Stick with me. Welcome back, everybody. Grant Stinchfield here as we continue our coverage, live coverage throughout the evening with teams spread out across Iowa and beyond as we bring you the results that we expect to start coming in. I don't know, some of the smaller counties could come in 30, 40 minutes from now if they're small turnout, some of the very small precincts where the caucuses are getting underway. Joe Biden wants to tell everybody that democracy is on the ballot. Let me tell you something. You better believe democracy is on the ballot. And it's not about President Trump. It's about Joe Biden killing democracy. It's about the left literally waging war on every institution that we're supposed to hold dear in this country, including rigging elections, which is a real thing, by the way. Listen to President Trump talk about that.
You ever notice they don't go after the people that rigged the election? They go after the people that question the integrity of the election. Nobody got indicted for spying on my campaign. Nobody got indicted for rigging the election, just for looking into it. Now we're changing things around these caucuses. I've never seen spirit like we have.
The spirit is huge. The passion is up. And I will tell you, as a victim of people going after social media companies, going after anybody who raises questions and simply wants answers. That's what it's really about, a search for the truth. Well, somebody who does that all the time, of course, is my buddy John Solomon. He's host of Just the News, No Noise, and he's with our friend, founder and president of Proactive Strategies, Mark Serrano. Both of them are standing by in Washington, D.C. John, the search for the truth is real, isn't it?
It is, and we've been denied a lot of it. We were denied it in 2020 in the Hunter Biden laptop, denied it in 2016 on Russia, and today we're being denied it on lots of other fronts, particularly inside the Biden administration and some of these agencies where we're not getting the truth, including the opposition to Joe Biden's policies from his own staff. I think we're going to see that play out in the next couple of days with a potential walkout. What an extraordinary signal. Donald Trump will walk away from Iowa victorious, and Joe Biden will see his staff walk out on him here in Washington. But you're right, truth denied is really a tale that has gone back to 2016.
You know, Mark, how should the president handle it? He gets a lot of backlash for talking about 2020, but unless you fix 2020, you've got to figure out how to get to 2024 to have it fair.
Yeah, and look, the president's position has been very clear for a very long time. Go back to single-day voting, paper ballots, none of this early voting anymore. And the reality is that's the system that's in place right now, is the early voting. You're going to have drop boxes again for some reason, I'm sure, in many of these states like we did in 2020. And, we've got to stick with the system we have. So we have to basically gather as many ballots as we can in advance. But really, we've got to churn out voters, low propensity voters. And that's really what's happening in Iowa right now. I think we're going to see possibly a record number of voters who voted for the first time in a caucus, thanks to Donald Trump. And Grant, let me just tell you, what's a huge indicator for us in Iowa tonight is enthusiasm. You take a look at new polling, and Trump supporters are 81% of them are very enthusiastic about supporting Donald Trump. Nikki Haley, only 39%. I think we're going to see a big drop off for her. But, reality is this is our system. And until we get back into power, into control, we got to stick with it. And then we can change the rules back to what they should be for voting.
All right. I want you guys to hang tough right there for a moment, because I'm going to want to get some reaction from David Brody, who is standing by. He's got some polling information coming into our Real America's Voice headquarters here. David, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I've got my reading glasses on because we're crunching the numbers right now. These are entrance polls taken by Edison Research. Entrance, not exit polls. Entrance polls, in essence, like exit polls. And this is what, or here's some of the highlights. Asked tonight in the Iowa caucuses, what is the number one issue? It is immigration. Immigration, 40% of respondents say immigration. Number two, the economy. That's good news for Trump, by the way. Well, the economy is also good news for Trump, but immigration, number one. And Trump wins a bulk of those, 70 or so % of the folks that said immigration was the number one concern. The evangelical vote tonight in entrance polls, Donald Trump won 55% of the evangelical vote compared to 24% for Ron DeSantis. 55, Grant, to 24%. Just put that in perspective. In 2016, when he lost to Ted Cruz, he lost the evangelical vote 33 to 21. It's a plus 30 swing for Donald Trump from 2016 to 2024. So those numbers are, once again, entrance polls coming out of the Iowa caucuses tonight. And you just go down the list. I mean, I can read a lot, but I'll just give you one more. This is an interesting question. Folks tonight were asked going into the caucus site, are you part of the MAGA movement? 49% of caucus goers said they were part of the MAGA movement. 46% said they were not. Out of the 49% that said they were MAGA, 78% went with Trump, 10% with DeSantis, 3% with Nikki Haley, 9% with Vivek Ramaswamy. So those are some of, give you an indication. I mean, right now, at least according to entrance polls, Trump is just running the board clean or straight on, if you will. The numbers are all up for Trump.
David, was there Trump, DeSantis, or Haley just a straight who are you going for number?
No, not right now. This is broken down. I'm looking, it's done by party ID and gender. I mean, I can tell you in terms of male and female. So for example, the male vote was 54% of the electorate tonight was male. And out of those 54% of males, 52% of them went for Trump. 18% went for DeSantis, 16% for Haley. Now, females, Trump actually beat, look at this, I'm looking at it now, 46%, just to understand, 46% of the electorate tonight in Iowa was female, 46% of the electorate. Out of that 46%, Donald Trump won 48% of the female vote. Nikki Haley won 26%. And Ron DeSantis won 21%. So Nikki Haley's not even winning the female vote. Trump is winning it far and away. And you just go down the list, and they've got it by age, and you can go down the line.
You see, he beats both of them combined there, which is a good thing. Let me bring in the guys in Washington, D.C. now to get some reaction from this. John Solomon and Mark Serrano. John, what do you make of what David just spelled out for us?
It's probably going to be a very strong Trump night. Why? Immigration is the leading issue. That's Trump's voters. Economy, number two. That's a strong Trump vote thing. You look at the male voting tonight, 54%. That's a strong Trump block. He's outperforming, I think, what some people thought he would do on women. I think this is shaping up to be a very strong Trump night. I think Nikki Haley may end up maybe falling a little bit behind the polls from what I'm seeing in the early data. We'll see how it turns out. But a good night for Trump thus far.
All right, Mark, if Nikki Haley falters and doesn't gain any ground on President Trump, what does that do for her? You know, all this stuff takes money. John, you mentioned earlier in the show, they spent $124 million, I think, by my count, these candidates in just Iowa. This is, you're not buying time in New York City or LA. It's crazy. What does this do for Haley? How do you raise money, Mark, if you're not even close?
Well, she's got a fairly deep pool of donors because they hate Trump. That's what they're all united around. And some of her donors are Democrats, by the way. So, but here's what we're looking at. Haley is the most recent poll. She's at 20% in Iowa. But as I said a little while ago, her enthusiasm gap is huge from Trump. She has half of the enthusiasm that Trump voters have. They will not turn out in the cold tonight. I think that Nikki Haley is going to perform below Ron DeSantis tonight, maybe by several points, and she's going to limp into New Hampshire. I think she could still do fairly well, relatively well in New Hampshire. But in terms of its impact on donors, I don't see a tremendous impact because, Grant, she is the last hope for the establishment that hates Donald Trump, including the donors.
You know, I heard, go ahead.
Well, Grant, I've got some more numbers here to sift through. If you want to do that, I can do it quickly if you'd like.
You know what, David? Yeah, go for it real quick.
Okay. 64% of Iowa caucus goers tonight said that Trump would be fit for the presidency even if convicted of a crime. 64% said yes, he would still be fit for the presidency. And 73% of those voters, in other words, 64% of Iowa voters said yes. 73% of them voted for Trump. Also, this is interesting. 58% of Iowa voters tonight said they are for a ban on most abortions nationwide, and Donald Trump won those voters as well. They said 54% of them voted for Trump and only 9% for Haley, 24% for DeSantis. So look, even abortion's not hurting Trump in Iowa tonight, which is just, these numbers are really kind of eye-popping, honestly.
They are, and John, I'll give you the last word before we go to break.
Yeah.
We've got to remember, this is an Iowa caucus in the middle of the heart of America, where evangelicals run strong. And these are people coming to caucus that are nearly all Republicans, right? So this is not a general election where you're taking these numbers, immigration top of the list. This is among Republicans in the heart of America that really think like Real America's Voice viewers do. John.
They do. And I think it clearly shows that Donald Trump is still very strongly the head of the party, in a very strong position to be the nominee a third time. And then the question is, how does he take that deck of cards and roll it out against Joe Biden? Joe Biden's down to 31%. We're just looking at this 31% approval rate.
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah, I mean,
that's worse than Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, it is. You just don't see numbers like this. Donald Trump is in a very strong position. No one would have guessed this 2 years ago.
31% approval rating for Joe Biden, and 28% think he's mentally fit to hold the office. I don't know who the 28%.
He makes
I don't know
Carter
who the 31
look really
are.
good.
Yeah,
he really does. Look, Obama and Carter are loving Biden right now because he's taken the mantle as worst president in American history from them.
No doubt.
Guys, hang tough
Lyndon
with us.
Johnson
We
may come
appreciate
back
you.
to run.
Yeah, right. No kidding. David, I want to keep you around as well with some of this stuff. And then I want to get out to one of the precinct locations, one of the caucus locations where we have a crew in Ankeny. We're going to do that when we come back from break, see what the turnout is out there as the caucus is now underway in Iowa. We'll be right back.
It goes into the bathroom.
Well, folks, welcome back. Grant Stinchfield here. We are continuing our live coverage of the Iowa caucuses, which are just underway now. Something that has become very clear to me is that anybody who's anybody in the conservative movement has now thrown their support behind President Trump. Why? because he has a record of success that nobody else can match. History proves what the future will bring with President Trump at the helm. He's got basically virtually support of nearly all of Congress. And not that that matters, right? We're so sick of what they're doing up there in Washington, but certainly for some of them it does. And then, of course, there's others in the conservative movement who hold very powerful voices. One of those people is the woman who should have been the governor of Arizona. I'm talking about Carrie Lake. Well, our own Michelle Baucus got to speak with Carrie Lake about the caucuses and about heading through this election cycle. Let's listen into that.
Hey, good day from chilly Iowa. I'm actually here with an Iowa native, nonetheless, Carrie Lake. Of course, she is a Trump surrogate. She also is running for the United States Senate in Arizona. Carrie, thank you so much for being with us.
It's good to be here. Yes, the weather's a little different than in Arizona today in Iowa, but people of this state are used to it. They've had cold winters and cold snaps before. So I'm not even slightly worried that they won't show up tonight because they know what's on the line.
See, that is the biggest question. A lot of people have said the weather is cold, the roads are a little icy. Will this affect voter turnout? And I know we've looked at the polls. Obviously, President Trump has a historic lead. I think we all know this is kind of in the bag, but you are urging people, as well as the Trump campaign, not to get too comfortable and still come out and caucus and vote. Why is it so important?
Well, we definitely don't want to get complacent. You know, the polls show President Trump will win by a landslide, but we have to just, in our mindset, make it look very close, because we don't want anything to come up where we go, well, you know, I've got something just came up and I know he's going to win anyway. We cannot have that mindset. We can't be complacent. So we're going to show up. People are going to show up tonight. Iowans realize it. I've been talking to Iowans the last 3 days. They feel the weight of the world on their shoulders. They know this is the most important caucus. This is what is going to start America off on a better trajectory to better days ahead. And they know that what's on the line right now is we've got to get President Trump back in office. America First policies, secure the border, bring back our economy, make it so that our streets are safe again, give us national security and energy policy. I mean, everything's on the line.
Yeah.
World peace is on the line.
100%. Speaking of the border, President Trump said on day one of his presidency, he's going to do a mass deportation. Why is it so important for Iowans, even though it's not a border town, to understand what is happening there?
Every state is a border state now, sadly. And it didn't have to be this way, because President Trump, I was an honest journalist for 27 years. I covered the Arizona border. I covered all of the issues facing Arizona. And on day one, Joe Biden pulled back an incredibly effective border policy that President Trump had put in place and invited the world to come over. And all the time I covered Arizona, 27 years, it had never been more safe and secure, that border, than under President Trump. He found a policy that worked. He was building the wall. And Joe Biden pulled that back and actually pretty much gave away all of that material to build the wall that was sitting on the desert floor when he stopped the construction of the wall.
It seems like it was almost to spite President Trump.
Well, I think I really don't believe that Joe Biden has the interests of the American people in his heart. I think he's been bribed to care more about our enemies than our own homeland. And so it's going to be mandatory that we take that up immediately on day one. Stop the insanity, take on the cartels. Who's benefiting from this? The cartels are benefiting from this open policy, multinational corporations who want cheap labor, and politicians who want to turn these people coming here illegally into voters, because the disgusting policies of Joe Biden and the Democrats that are destroying our country, nobody in America wants those policies, so they have to import people to vote. And in order to save our homeland, I agree with President Trump. We have to repatriate these people back to their land, to their homeland, because we have to save America, and we cannot allow this to go on any longer.
Carrie, you know, you are on the short list, according to some reports, for Trump's VP pick. What do you make of that?
You know, actually, I think I used to kind of get perturbed when that question was being asked, because I thought this is just way too premature. But I actually like that reporters are asking that question, because it makes me realize they're not asking that question of Nikki Haley. They're not asking that question of DeSantis and Vivek. They're not asking that question because they know that those people are not going to win. So it just reminds me that the media knows Trump's going to win. That's why they ask that question. He's going to pick somebody great. I have no doubt about that. Our movement has so many incredible fighters riders. He could pick any one of them, and I will show up and vote for him on election day. I will crawl across broken glass to vote for President Trump and whomever he chooses to be his vice president. It's going to be great.
It's so funny. We said earlier, Trump supporters will crawl across broken glass, walk across ice, here in Iowa to vote for him and show their support. You're one of them.
That's right. That's right. Well, I know Iowans, and I know that they do their due diligence when it comes to the caucus. It's the perfect state to start things off because they're willing to give their time. They're willing to, Iowans are willing to listen to people that they disagree with. Yeah. They're willing to go say, yeah, I'll listen to this politician. And then they walk away and say, okay, I still like Trump. But they're willing to hear everybody out, and they put the time in. It's a state that's not so large that you can't talk to every voter. I mean, I'm sure if you ask these politicians, they feel like they've talked to every single voter in the state. And President Trump has done more than that. He's talked to every voter. He's been here so many times, not only in just the last, several months, but in the 4 years he was president, he came to Iowa many times, and he delivered for Iowa. He delivered with 22,000 new jobs, more than half of them manufacturing jobs. Conversely, Joe Biden destroyed the market. He destroyed the economy, and Iowa lost a couple thousand jobs under him. President Trump took on China like no other president has, and delivered $28 billion to Iowa farmers when they were being harassed by China, basically. And he's just done so much. He kept Iowa as the first state in the nation to do the caucus, which is so important. And he loves the people of this state. He understands that they are the hardworking people of this state. And I know that love is a mutual respect and a mutual friendship.
Thing. Well, Carrie, thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Senate campaign. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of you. As always, it's a pleasure.
Thank you. We're doing quite well in our Senate campaign. Our polling numbers are showing that we're ahead of the Democrat. And I've got President Trump's endorsement and a number of other key endorsements. And more than that, the people of Arizona know that I will go to Washington, D.C. and fight for them. And that's what I plan to do.
Great interview from Michelle Bacchus there. And what a great patriot Carrie Lake is. Now, she is running for Senate. She's running against a friend of mine, Sheriff Mark Lamb out there in Arizona, who's also a fabulous patriot. Interesting, she just said she got President Trump's endorsement. That's going to go a long way for her race in Arizona there to be the next United States Senator from Arizona. I want to go now out to Trump headquarters, where Kaylin Dorr is waiting for us. Kaylin, welcome back.
Grant, how's it going, man? You hanging in there over there?
I'm hanging in, buddy. I'm having a great time. Everything's good. I'm looking at some of the entry polls that are coming in, and it looks like President Trump is having a commanding lead here, is the way it's being reported. That's good news. What's the feeling there at headquarters?
Yeah, so headquarters is pretty barren right here, but I'm going to turn over here so you can see the branding is on point, and something worth noting here. Everything on here indicates that they're planning on taking the messaging to the general here, regardless of the outcome tonight. I think they expect to, double that record. Remember, we were talking about this earlier. The record margin is 12.8 points. And I think, they would feel comfortable saying, anything between 36 and 50 are kind of where people are anticipating. My money's on around 38. But if you're taking a look, I know Brandon is working the camera and he showed you here, general election marketing. So everything is better off Trump. They've got statistics up. Here's what a mortgage costs under Joe Biden versus under President Trump. And I think the theme tonight is going to be looking forward. And I'm very excited to see him come out and give remarks. Like I said, nobody's really filed in here quite yet because they're out, hopefully, generating votes and caucusing. So we'll be on standby to keep you updated on crowd numbers and so on and so forth. And this is better buckle up, baby.
It's interesting because one of the things I've noticed President Trump doing is he's not talking a lot about Ramaswamy and DeSantis. And you get a couple comments here and there because he is in a primary, but he's focused on Joe Biden. He's focused on the big prize, and the big prize being the White House. He's running as a candidate that is already in a general election. And you think this is going to be upped one more ante. What I'm curious is the talk from the campaign is, look, if we win, we win. It doesn't matter what the margin is, that a victory is a victory. In the end, we all know it does matter what the margin is. What do you think the campaign quietly would like to see that they could go out there and blast the world with it?
Yeah, I think it's anywhere between 30 and 50 points. And I'm seeing online, some of the guys in the DeSantis camp, they're setting the expectation that anything under 50 is a disappointment for the Trump team. And I think that's just pretty bad framing. If these guys are unable to take bigger chunks out of the electorate, then they don't really have any business running for the office. So it'll be interesting to see. Like, you would take a look at kind of what the Trump camp sets as an expectation, but what you really should be looking at is what Nikki and Ron DeSantis guys are saying, especially online, about where they expect their candidate to be. I mean, I think, and I don't know about you, Grant, I think someone's dropping out here in the next week or so. I mean, what's your take?
Well, one is it's a money issue. I don't know how Ron DeSantis is going to raise any more money. Nikki Haley, I know, can raise some money because she's got the billionaire class behind her that I think in some respects is now understanding she's not going to win this race, and they want somehow President Trump to pick her as his vice presidential pick. I hope that doesn't happen, but it seems like there's more and more talk about that. Now, I will tell you, in my hopes and dreams, I want President Trump to be above 45%. And I think there's no reason why he can't be above 45%. Yes, a victory is a victory, but I'm going to be upset if he doesn't get above 45%. And I'm going to say, what the heck happened to my voters there? Did you not turn out? What's going on? And I'm going to start blaming people because it's not President Trump's fault. I think he can get to the 45.
No, I don't disagree with you. And I think really, if that were to happen, it would be because simply the sheer amount of advertising dollars and resources dedicated to this are out of control. It's not something I would really ever advise a candidate to do. Spend $250 million just to win one state is almost malpractice in a lot of ways. But you got to take a look at what these other candidates are doing, right? They're running to be what if candidates, but they can't finish that thought, right? They can't finish what if, Trump goes to jail? What if they make an attempt on his life? And that right there proves that they're hollow candidates. They don't believe in what they're doing. And if you don't have an answer to that question, if you don't have an answer to what it is exactly, what lane you're running in, then I think it's going to reflect in the polls. I think you're going to be very pleased tonight, Grant.
I hope so, Kaylin, and it's a great analysis of them being what if candidates. That's not a place you want to be in a campaign race. So I appreciate you coming on. All right, folks. So look, here's the deal. $124 million has now been spent on this race on video ads in Iowa. $124 million. Now, Des Moines, Iowa is a very tiny TV market. If you told me you spent that much money in California, where you have San Francisco and Los Angeles and San Diego and Sacramento and these big cities, I'd say, okay, you got Des Moines, Iowa, $124 million. The amount of money now being spent in presidential campaigns is through the roof. And I want to go out now to our good friend, Charlie Kirk, who is standing by in his studio. Let's go to him.
Okay, hello to Real America's Voice. God bless you guys. How are you? We're also on Rumble. We're on YouTube. We're all over the place here tonight. We have the famous Blake Neff here. And also we have Jack Posobiec. Jack, say hello.
Retribution has begun.
Yes. Okay, and so we have a lot happening here right now, election results that are pouring in. Jack, what are we seeing so far? The early results, it's only about 400 votes-ish, but it shows Donald Trump is trending right around that 65 to 70% number.
Yeah, this is a huge tranche, and from an analyst standpoint, I have to say these numbers, I expect them to get tighter. With the first tranche that came in, again, it's a very small sample size, but it's Trump 75, DeSantis 14, Nikki Haley 5, Vivek Ramaswamy 4. This is with according to the Decision Desk HQ. Now, and we were talking before as well that some of these urban areas are going to come differently. I think the rural areas are going to do much better for Trump as it comes in. But also a lot of these early entrance polls that we're starting to see, for example, CNN's entrance poll of caucus voters. You think Biden legitimately won in 2020? 65% No. Is Trump fit for the presidency, even if he's convicted of a crime? 64%. Yes. Okay. And then, of course, is the Republican side. But these are numbers that have CNN's anchors visibly trembling because they've started to finally scratch the surface, and they've spent some time out in Iowa, right? They say, wait a minute, this is Posobiec on Human Events and Charlie and Bannon over at the War Room. That, you know, they're just saying all this stuff. This can't possibly be real. People can't actually believe what these crazy tinfoil or tonight beanie cap wearing individuals say. Guess what? It's real, and it's
So right now we are seeing results start to pour in. We're also going to want to throw to Tara Dahl and David really quick here on Real America's Voice. And you guys watching Real America's Voice, make sure you watch us every single day. If you're just tuning in for this election result coverage, maybe you did or did not know this. Every day we are live for 2 hours in the Charlie Kirk Show, and then Jack Posobiec follows us right here on this Real America's Voice channel. We love Rav. Rav is one of the most important programs out there. We are here live covering. Yes,
New York Times calls it Donald Trump wins the Republican caucus.
Oh, they've already called it?
Already.
Well, but
with 456 votes in.
That is awfully quick. The New York Times is already calling it that quickly?
Yep, just now.
It's 456 votes. So let me get this straight. Ron DeSantis and Nimrata spent $250 million so that within 450 votes, we could find out what we already knew, that Donald Trump was going to win Iowa?
Yeah, pretty much.
Jack, are you hearing this? Are you seeing this?
By the Associated Press.
The Associated Press is coming in the New York Times. We have 450 votes. Now it's just, hey, everybody, don't look away yet. Hold on. This is important. We have to find out margins. Let's not get ahead of of course, I mean, Trump's in a good spot. But I want to find out, well, hold on. Ron DeSantis, you spent all this money on your ego trip, man. You didn't spend any money on early state infrastructure. You know what? Somebody just emailed us, freedom@charliekirk.com. What about the midnight ballot dumps?
Midnight ballot dumps.
Not going to happen because we do.
You can't dump a caucus. That's why we do it.
You can't dump a caucus. By the way, we should have a shirt that says that.
The only place you can dump, whole bodies of people is Chicago.
Okay, I want to go really quick to Tara Dahl, and I want to go to Tara Dahl and David Zier. Email us freedom@charliekirk.com. Results start to pour in. This should be the end of the Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, everybody's campaign. Bend the knee. You have 24 hours to bend the knee to Donald Trump. If this ends up being a 70 or 75% night, forget it. Tara and David, what's going on live from Iowa?
So, hi, Charlie. This is a polling place, caucus place, the precinct in Ankeny. It's the most red area of Polk County in the greater Des Moines area. And delegates spoke, or caucusers spoke for DeSantis. He got a very lukewarm reception from the audience. And then Nikki Haley got hardly any applause at all. Donald Trump probably get 2, 3, 4 times the amount of applause here. So I just took some B-roll of secret ballots being counted. I just wanted to thank Joe Romeri here from Whiskey River for donating this place for the caucus tonight. But also, 49% of the voters are saying that border is the most important issue. And my ear has been around for 8 or 9 visits, and it's always been the border. And I think as this is really about that here. And a single mom caught up in caucus.
Okay, let's call them back, guys, once we get the audio fixed. Okay, we're having some audio problems here. So, Jack, what are we seeing and hearing? The results are coming in. It's just a matter of margin here. Every single major outlet has called this for Trump. That took like 20 minutes. By the way, people are still caucusing. You want to talk about election interference?
People aren't even over.
They're not even over. People are still caucusing right now.
2016 was not like this, and people need to understand. 2016 went to the wee hours. 2012 was so close. It was actually called for Romney, but then later they had to walk it back because it turned out that Santorum actually had like slightly more in the actual caucus from him. So Iowa is traditionally not a landslide state in the caucuses. It just hasn't performed that way when there's been a contested primary. And I think, Charlie, we really have to start asking the question, was this a contested primary at all? Or, Trump, these results are like an incumbent.
In some ways, it might be really good to just get this out of the way in Iowa and then this entire charade and this entire program. I mean, $250 million, Blake, to get a result that we already knew. That money could have been spent. The Democrats are laughing. Election integrity, secure our elections, Mark Elias, ballot chasing, voter registration, $250 million, Blake Neff.
Just $250 million. At least I'll say this: at least the people in Iowa, they attempted to drum up support and did this and failed. Imagine you spent 6 months campaigning in New Hampshire, and then this just happens, and you don't even need to have the election; it's already over. Kind of I just feel bad for these people in like a pathetic sort of way.
But Jack, I'm going to get a little bit bitter here. Wait a second. 250. By the way, everybody, just enjoy yourself here. Just slow down, because the results are coming in, and this could end up being one of the most triumphant, significant caucus results that we've seen as far as the margin. I'm very interested in second place. That's not insignificant. So let's just understand, if Trump's number goes a little bit down to 50 or 40% and Nikki Haley gets within 15 points, they're going to say, this is still alive. This is still alive.
Haley-mentum.
Haley-mentum. On to New Hampshire. Iowa's too white anyway. You think I'm kidding? They're going to say this stuff. Okay.
Trump needs to cut a deal with Haley.
Yeah, exactly.
Before the momentum overtakes him.
Maybe she needs a fight. By the way,
absolutely not.
Hold on, Jack. Hold on. Everybody watching right now, there is going to be a very sneaky deal trying to make Nikki Haley the vice president. I want your thoughts about that. freedom@charliekirk.com. By the way, we're giving away free copies of my book tonight for those of you that subscribe to our podcast and show that you're subscribed. Email us freedom@charliekirk.com. So College Scam, we're giving away some copies of our book. But I want to repeat that is, they're going to try to make the Nikki thing closer. $250 million. Tyler Boyer is going to be joining us later as we kind of unpack this. It is absolutely ridiculous how much money that we spent on this primary to get the very same result. Can we go back to Michelle when she's ready here? I want to go back to Michelle and get the vibe from the Trump team. The Associated Press, NBC are calling it. Michelle, what is the vibe here from the Trump campaign office?
Yeah, just about 2 minutes ago, you heard everyone cheering in the background. And in all honesty, Charlie, I'm one of the only people left in this room. I actually see people shaking hands right now, cheering, walking out, moving on with their night. AP called this at 7:31. That is just outstanding that you're seeing so many of these major news outlets call this so fast. I mean, this place emptied out quick. We were here for, I would say, about 30 minutes of live coverage, and I went from a room full of people to me, our RAV crew, and a few others.
Well, very good. I mean, the energy I'm sure is terrific, and it's time to celebrate in the Trump campaign. Less than 1% of all votes counted. Why people are still caucusing. People are still caucusing. Donald Trump is going to win. And by the way, the results are still coming in. Blake, what are the actual official results outside of all the media calling it? I mean, this is so fast. It's so rapid.
I feel bad. I'm supposed to know things. I don't know who Ryan Binkley is, but he has 3 votes, which is more than Chris Christie's 1 vote or Alex Hutchinson's 0 votes.
And with less than 1%, I mean, this is a very, very
605 votes in. Yeah, this is going to go up a lot, but Trump's at 70%. DeSantis is at 15. Haley's at 8.
But Jack. I was told by all the DeSantis people for the last 9 months, we knocked on $3 million doors and we spent $130 million, and we don't need to go to the Turning Point event. Remember, they told us, Jack, we don't need to go to the Turning Point event. And they said that we have a plan and we have to trust the plan and we have a great plan and we're going to spend $130 million. Are you trying to say that DeSantis people were misleading us?
I have a very short message for the DeSantis campaign, the DeSantis people, whatever you want to call this. It's an urgent message, and it is a time-sensitive matter. 3 words: bend the knee. Bend the knee. And maybe you'll get a shot.
Shot at what?
That's all I got for.
Shot at relevancy, shot back in the club, or
TBD.
I'm going to disagree a little bit there. Not
figure.
He should drop out for sure. But I don't want us to have a posture of we just won by 50 points, by 50 points or whatever. You don't. Frederick the Great, I'm making dumb historical references already. He had a line in victory, magnanimity. You don't just be bend the knee. We just clowned on them so hard. You just have to.
Excuse me, Blake. I disagree.
All these people have to back you.
He has not conceded yet.
It's whether he concedes or not. It doesn't really matter what he does.
There's his voters. Guys, they're still caucusing. Okay, there's one.
If there's no concession, then there's no magnanimity.
Okay, but let's see tonight. Let's see who drops out tonight. And again, I'm also going to be interested to see how Vivek does. I think that's going to be something that you and I will have our eye on, right? Vivek is right now ahead of Nikki as the results come in, which I think would be hilarious if Vivek.
Oh my gosh, that would be so good.
I don't think the New York Times page, she's up by 5 points still.
Okay, well, Andrew
votes.
said that Vivek is currently ahead of Nikki. So, I mean, look, bend the knee, totally agreed. But the longer that we continue to extend this primary, then we are going to see a collapse. I mean, we're going to see us collapse in front of the Democrats. Jack, continue your thoughts.
Look, here's what it comes down to. All right, I think that, and again, you know, I do think these numbers will tighten. I said that already, but at the same time, this really shows a resounding triumph for what we have been saying as our analysis the entire year, that Donald Trump is the head of the Republican Party. There are people who tried to dispute this. There are people who tried to spend millions of dollars to dispute this. But the people of the party have made their voices clear. They've made it clear they are not interested. I bet you that there are people that went to some of those DeSantis rallies, that went to some of those events, they wanted to see him, they wanted to hear him out, some of Vivek, some of Nikki Haley's, and they said, you know what, I even think that some of these guys are good people. Maybe I want to sniff out the vice presidential picks. Maybe I want to see what the bench is like. I'm here for all that stuff. Okay, I'm here for it. So at the same time, Jack, right now, it's time to understand who is the leader.
I want to get back to our on-the-ground amazing talent at Real America's Voice in Iowa. Everybody email us, freedom@charliekirk.com. I want to hear from you directly right now on the line. We are seeing the results come in, an absolute domination. Everyone's got to drop out. I love Vivek. I like DeSantis. You got to drop out. Okay. Okay. I want to get now to back on the ground here. Tara and David, I'm sorry for the tech issues, guys. What's going on here? Walk us through it live from an Iowa caucus site.
I just wanted to go back really quickly, and I hand it off to Terry here, that, you know, this vote here, DeSantis won Ankeny. Kim Reynolds hammered the Ankeny community here, and there were a lot of DeSantis people. And DeSantis won Ankeny, one of the reddest parts of the Des Moines area, by 75 to 57 to Trump. And Nikki got 56%. Probably not indicative, of course, statewide here. But I think the turnout was probably a little light, because there's about 2,000 registered voters here in Ankeny, and there was about 10 to 15% of the people showed up. So we'll see where that goes. I just wanted to go there.
Yeah, but it was fun to see, to be part of it. And like you said, there was no cheating going on. It is paper ballots. It was so fast. The process was so fast. They put down their candidate. You heard from DeSantis' team. You heard from Haley's team, Trump's team. Nobody was here representing Vivek at this caucus. But they wrote down the names. They quickly counted the votes, and it was done. And they wrapped up and they left. So it was good to see.
Well, very good, guys. So the race has already been called for Donald Trump. Is that consistent with the macro trends that you guys have been feeling across the state of Iowa?
Across the state of Iowa, everybody I interviewed on the ground, including 8 college students from around the country who were here, when I asked them what the most important issue is. Most of the people on the ground, I've been here 9 times for RAV in the last 2 years. It's the border and the economy. And then the entrance polling showed that it was 49% the border, right? Yeah. And they were saying it was 40% as the top issue before. So it even came in as a stronger issue. I think people are sick and tired. It's a referendum on that.
Yeah, I think every single day people realize how important the border is and how Trump's policies secured the border and how Biden's policies are failing and how Trump is going to be the best candidate to be able to do that again.
Yeah, and Tara, you pointed out before that I-80 and the I-35 corridor to dissect the state. Human trafficking corridor from the Mississippi River to the Missouri River, a lot of illegal immigration, a lot of trafficking going on. And it's a corridor, so people are sensitive to it.
And they're impacted by the fentanyl as well. They're impacted by the deaths of fentanyl, and just illegal immigration impacts everybody here in Iowa.
Yeah.
Well, very good, guys. We'll get back to you soon. Thanks so much for the coverage from the front lines. You guys have been doing great work. Thank you. Blake, do you have some things you want to report here? By the way, everybody, send us an email, freedom@charliekirk.com. Subscribe. And just a reminder, if you're watching Real America's Voice here in the evening, both Jack Posobiec and I have daytime shows on Real America's Voice. We'd be honored to have you guys watch every day. Yes, Blake.
So first, just the results continuing to come in. Trump's share has dropped. It's now at about 57%. That's not a swerve. That's about what New York Times was anticipating even from the early results. So Trump still on pace for that good mid-50s result. And we're looking at, 17% for both Nikki and Ron right now. Nikki has pulled ahead of Ron in these early results, 1% in. I just got a message from a friend of mine who was a DeSantis supporter, did some work with the campaigns and stuff. And he says, well, this primary could have been an email.
What do you mean by that?
It's a kind of Zoomerism, but essentially, like, we didn't need all this song and dance. Could have been, it was all over.
We didn't need to Zoom like a meeting. It's like a meeting.
$250 million. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jack, what are we seeing in here, and what are the number? What are the latest numbers, by the way, Blake? What are the macro numbers? How many votes do we have in officially? Not just the projections.
1,454.
Okay,
so we are now at actually 1%.
And what percentage do we have there?
We have 56.7% for Trump, 17.7% for Nimarata Nikki Haley. We have 17.2% for Ron DeSantis. And we have 6.9% for Vivek and 13 votes for Ryan Binkley. And Asa Hutchinson's on the board has doubled in the last 2 minutes from 2 to 4.
So so Jack, the question is,
find that guy.
wait, hold on a second. What is DeSantis's vote total?
Total votes for DeSantis 250 exactly, 17.2%.
And how much has been reported statewide?
About 1%, 1454.
So what is he on pace for? 20,000 votes?
I can't do that math easily off the top of my head. He'd be about 20,000 votes.
Okay, so Jack, I'm not a math major. What's 120 million divided by 20,000?
Oh boy.
No, I'm super curious. This is going to be like Mike Bloomberg level. Like he spent $1 billion.
$7,500.
So I'm projecting. I hope I'm wrong.
No, it's like 6,000.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong
right?
that Ron DeSantis did not spend $6,000 per Iowa caucus vote. Jack, come on. Is my math? If that ends up being
7,500.
No, let's be generous. Let's say that DeSantis ends up with 35,000 votes.
Okay, all right.
Let's say that DeSantis ends up and he spent $120 million ish.
3,500.
If you got 35,000, you're at like $4,000 per. That's that's a good vacation.
He could have went around and just gave people $500 a piece, and would have been. I don't even know if it would have worked though. So
he could have done. Yeah, he could have just done like the big version of what the North Dakota governor guy did.
Doug Burgum.
Burgum Bucks. I got the Burgum Bucks. I didn't vote for him, but
New York Times has Haley above DeSantis still.
Yes.
Yeah, so just so everybody knows, some of the more friendly areas for Donald Trump have not even yet reported their votes. So I think this vote total actually might expand. The northwestern part of Iowa is going to be very, very, very pro-Trump. The Iowa City seems to have reported that I think that is no, not yet, but Des Moines County end up the numbers are great. If you're looking at this, I mean, the race has already been called. If you're Nikki Haley, you're in a neck and neck race with Ron DeSantis. The numbers are really, really going to pour in. If Donald Trump is above 50%, this is a triumph unlike anything we've ever seen. And the question is,
I've never seen an Iowa like this.
Where did the $250 million go, Jack? I mean, we've been talking about this on Real America's Voice.
Maybe
he's no longer with the PAC, right? But where did the $250 million go?
Talk to us then. We can ask where all their buddies went, all the national buddies. I'd love to get Governor DeSantis on, just not even on air. We could do it off camera. And I just want to know. I'd say, Ron, just tell me one-on-one. I won't even repeat it. What were you thinking? Seriously, what were you thinking? You were the guy. You could have been the heir apparent. You could have been the one to pick up the ball. All you had to do was endorse, run around the states, campaign, do like you did in 2022. Just be a team player, Ron. But you couldn't be a team player, could you? You didn't want to be on that team. You want to be the leader. So I would really love to know. Where did it all go wrong?
So it all go? We're fielding a lot of emails here, freedom@charliekirk.com. I want to play a step ahead here, okay? Donald Trump is crushing it. He's won. Nikki is overperforming DeSantis. If that trend continues, there's going to be a massive uniparty push to make a Trump-Haley ticket. I cannot emphasize enough the gut punch that would be for our grassroots. We need to send a clear message. We will not put up with that. That would be a major mistake. That would be a Koch brother infiltration of a MAGA movement. And Jack, this is a real threat. Okay, we need to get out of here when it comes to that. Instead, we did a whole podcast on this. Jack, go ahead.
No, here's the question, though. If you've got results like this, what do you need Nikki Haley for? Right? If you've got results like this, then all you need is a vice president that doesn't hurt you. You don't need someone like that. First of all, you put Nikki Haley on there, you're going to need a taste tester. But seriously, if you've got results with this resounding of a victory, then you don't need a Nikki Haley. You don't need someone to put it together. You've got it. You have it on lock. You get to pick. You can write your own destiny with numbers like these. This is a resounding, again, we're going off early numbers, caveat, all that stuff. But if Trump has been given a mandate here, and it seems like he's been given a mandate, then you don't need to cut deals with anybody. The rest of the world needs to cut deals with you.
No, that's exactly right. And so, by the way, the results continue to come in here. And Blake, what are the latest numbers here that we're looking at?
We're now up to 2% of the vote in, and Trump is 55%, Haley's 19%, DeSantis is 17%, Vivek 7%.
Yeah, some of the ruralist parts, though, of the state have yet to report.
Oh, yeah. It's almost all in the eastern parts of the state still so far. We don't have basically anything from Sioux City. Yeah, that northwest corner is definitely going to be the most Trump area.
How is Vivek doing? Vivek is hanging around 7%.
7.5% right now.
Hanging around 7.5%.
And there's a lot of uncertainty how he'll finish. Even the New York Times model has him still. They have his estimated outcome ranging from 1% to 18%. So a lot of uncertainty. I suspect Vivek is really going to have the most unpredictable results because he was the most retail-based guy. He didn't spend a ton of money, but he did 1 million events. He met a ton of people. So I think you could see very uneven results where he maybe will just have had an event that was really successful, got a lot of people in person on his side, and that's just going to vary all across the state. It'd be really interesting if he managed to do a good result. I think a lot of people would like that just because it would prove retail politics isn't dead. Whereas everything else about this is clearly indicating you can spend $250 million on a state and have it just do absolutely nothing whatsoever these days.
Yeah. So Jack, walk us through here the next steps. They're going to try to make a big push for New Hampshire, isn't it? Don't you think?
Who makes the push for New Hampshire? Right. So if you're look, Bob Vanderplaats said, and the MAGA War Room has this up. They just posted it. They said Bob Vanderplaats went on Fox News. I can't tell exactly when this was, a while ago, and said if Trump wins Iowa, it's going to be awfully hard to make the case that you can beat President Trump anywhere. That you could beat him anywhere. Iowa was the one place, and Trump didn't win Iowa in 2016. He came close, but he didn't win in 2016. This was one of the places where it showed there may have been a lane for another candidate. Ted Cruz had a fantastic showing in 2016, was able to make some headway throughout the Midwest, made his final stand at Indiana. Okay, we all know the history. I was there. Everybody remembers this. But if you could beat Trump in Iowa, then there might be a path. If Iowa gives him a mandate, it's over. Okay, it's all over. And so, sure, they'll try to make, everybody's desperate for a narrative right now. They're desperate for some narrative win. Look, Vivek, he, of course, wants the surprise, would be able to say, I beat somebody, right? If he's able to say he beat somebody, then that puts him on the map and gives him a better leverage position for the rest of the race. If Haley beats DeSantis, then DeSantis is, I think his political career is over at that point. I think it's just completely over. And then she will, and to your point, Charlie, it will be a Haley Trump race, and the media will try to make this a Haley Trump race. Of course, Haley, by the way, will be going. I guarantee right now, Nikki Haley's campaign is picking up the phone to Chris Christie and saying, "All right, man, how many meatball subs is it going to take? How many, how many lifetime supply of Golden Corral? What'll it be?" Because she wants those Chris Christie voters up in New Hampshire. This was the only place where we saw Chris Christie really show any traction across the entire board. So if Haley's able to get a Christie endorsement going into New Hampshire, she has a good showing at parity or even better than she's done here in New Hampshire. And then there might be some motivation. And of course, you're going to see what I predict is a huge consolidation between the DeSantis camp and the Haley camp. We've already seen the money, right? So if you understand establishment politics and Charlie, you know this better than anyone, regime politics politics is, it's money driven. Okay, it's not people driven, it's money driven. So the money went into DeSantis first. Okay, then they tried to prop him up. That was the 250 mil. That was the never back down. That was this massive super PAC, the illegal funneling of money to his gubernatorial campaign in 2022, which was always meant to roll over. The RGA and so many people played a role in this. Pete Ricketts and his entire crooked family when they bought his Senate seat. Oh, whoops, did I just say that out loud? In Nebraska next door. Played a huge role in this. And then, of course, it goes and it becomes turned over for DeSantis's presidential campaign in a race that hadn't been competitive at all in 2022. So the question is, when all that money has already shifted to Nikki Haley, the question is, where does she go for bodies? Where does she go for people? She's got to go to Chris Christie. She's going to do everything she can to gobble up DeSantis' support. And funny enough, in a weird way, Trump almost might want DeSantis to stay in longer if Nikki Haley stays in longer.
Yeah. So Blake, what are you reading and seeing here?
So an interesting thing, just looking at the map.
We have 3 minutes, guys, by the way. 3 minutes.
As the map stands right now, we have every county's red except 2 of them. We have just north of Des Moines, we have Story County. You guys actually can bring it up on the screen here if you like. We have Story County, that's just north of Des Moines. And then we have Johnson County, just south of Cedar Rapids. So Johnson County is Iowa City and Story County is Ames. And so that's Iowa State and the University of Iowa. And so what we are seeing is we're kind of seeing a recurrence of the trend we see with the broader Trump realignment, which is college educated voters, which is going to be people in these college towns, even conservative ones, they don't like Trump that much. They like Haley, they like Ron DeSantis. So we can probably anticipate we're going to see those trends continue in the 2024 election, probably writ large. I don't know why college-educated voters love Nikki Haley. I guess, you go to a class on political science or chemistry or whatever, and then you want to bomb Iran.
Mm-hmm.
But
it is. Jack, final thoughts here with Real America's Voice. We're going to keep the stream going. But Jack, final thoughts here for Rav.
Not since the days of Mike Tyson have we seen such a first-round massacre. And that's what this is, folks. This is a Mike Tyson-esque, right off the bell massacre.
Everybody, email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. If you want to get one of our books, subscribe to our podcast, then email us freedom@charliekirk.com, proof of your subscription. And make sure you guys give us a subscription by following the QR code. Lots happening, obviously, tonight. A triumphant win for Donald Trump, and also just a heavy win, considering all the indictments and everything that is up, the perseverance, the hustle, the grit, the scrappiness. Totally amazing. Very, very proud of him and I'm happy for him and the victory that he has been able to bring forward for the American people. It's truly amazing. And let me just emphasize something. That for Ron DeSantis, all these people, they got to drop out. We have to end this primary. It is too bad it took $250 million for us to get to the place where we were a year ago, where we could have spent all that money on early state election infrastructure, on registering voters, on chasing ballots, on securing elections. This is a huge morale boost, everybody. And finally, this goes to show, regardless of how hard Mike Pence tried and Nikki Haley is trying, that the philosophical and moral center of the Republican Party is a workers' party. It is a muscular class party. It is an anti-war party. It is a restriction immigration party. And so I really want to say that, we're going to see a permanent and total recalibration of the Republican Party in a beautiful and incredible way. And this is all thanks to you guys who showed up and did your job in Iowa, who did your job and you showed up. And you guys tell me when we're doing the handoff to Grant. I know I might not be able to hear it, but you guys tell me. I love hearing from you, freedom@charliekirk.com. Follow that QR code if you guys can, if it's on your screen. Okay, and I'm going to hand it off to Grant here. I want to thank you guys. This is just a little bit of a bridge and a parlay, a reminder. Jack Posobiec and us here on the Charlie Kirk Show every single day for 2 hours, 1 hour with Jack Posobiec. We love Real America's Voice. Support this network. Love working with Parker. Love working with Rob. They're amazing patriots. And this is the beginning. This is the beginning of the take back of the country from the regime, from a uniparty. No more polls. No more speculation. No more guessing this is the conservative MAGA reckoning that we've been waiting for and started tonight. God bless Iowa, and let's get to Grant here. God bless you, Grant, and take it away.
Hey, right back at you, my friend, and great work from you, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec, and the whole crew there. I'm glad we could call this race with them on the air because nobody does it better than Charlie Kirk and that crew. Look, folks, I'm going to make a call right now. Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy all need to get out of this race, open the runway for President Trump. 1 down, 49 to go. Our coverage continues. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Grant Stinchfield. This is continuing coverage of the Iowa caucuses. And for all of you Make America Great Again conservatives out there, we have absolutely fabulous news to report. Just an hour into the Iowa caucuses, and every major outlet has called it for President Trump, including the Stinchfield Decision Desk right here in Dallas, Texas. That's me who made the call, by the way. President Trump. The Trump train rolls. And you heard Charlie Kirk and the guys talking about this. $250 million plus spent in Iowa. And President Trump right now, as I look at the results, still well over 50%. 54.6% is where he is at. Small percentage of the vote in. But as you start to look towards Northwest Iowa, which is really Trump country, this number could get bigger and bigger and bigger. So a resounding victory for President Trump to be called this early. I can't remember the last time that has happened as you look at some of the results on the screen there. Just an amazing showing for President Trump and an embarrassment for Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. I'm watching some of the other mainstream media networks, folks, and they're all going crazy about the race for second place. The race for second place is I'm looking at DeSantis, 19%, Haley, 17%. If there's a story there, I guess it would be that DeSantis is overtaking Nikki Haley, but still, I mean, huge deficit from President Trump, an embarrassing deficit. I would argue all of them need to leave the race, and they need to leave it now. Well, joining me now, hosts of American Sunrise, helping me cover this Iowa caucus from the beginning tonight. Dr. Gina Loudon is with us, and David Brody is back with us. David, I know you have some fresh numbers for us. What do you got as you look at this race?
Well, I'm putting it all together, Grant. And let's start with kind of a macro version of this. We know Trump obviously has won the Iowa caucus. The sense is, by the New York Times and others, and if you kind of look at the numbers, he's probably going to be north of 50%. He'll probably clock in ultimately at about 53%. And so that'll be a 30-plus point win for him tonight, which is really, let's be honest, unheard of. I mean, it just is. It's absolutely unheard of.
David, so can I ask you, how do you get to the 50-something% there this early in it? And I hope you're right, and I trust you, your numbers on it. I said I wanted him at least 45%. It would have been just such a crushing blow if he was over 45. How do you get there where you make that prediction so everybody at home understands this?
Sure. A couple of things. First of all, the New York Times is the one actually putting out the 53% projection. And I believe I did say the New York Times on that. But to give you a more complete answer, they're looking at entrance polls. They're looking at what parts of the state have and have not come in and all of that, kind of those counties that we talked about before. And they're doing their best projection. And of course, honestly, I'm a bit of a political geek, but I'm nowhere near geeky like these guys. So they can figure all of the number crunching out. But let me say a couple other things, Grant, which really struck me tonight. Donald Trump doubled his support among females tonight in Iowa from 2016. He had 24% of female support in 2016. He had 48%